All right, welcome everybody to this is Adam from Pinson to Flood for the Win, and you can see these two beauties right next to me. Rob from Cash Cards, who I've been wanting to have on for a while, and of course Mike, the Jayhawker. I've had some nice discussions with Mike about all kinds of stuff, and just getting to know Rob more through texting and watching your videos. But welcome both. It's a real honor to have you guys on here.
Dude, thank you, Adam. Appreciate it, man.
Well, I appreciate it as well. I always like to talk about my guy, Vada Pinson. So this is
that's what this show's going to be about. It's going to be about talking about a guy that we all love. And I thought I was the only one floating out there until I got on and realized I can't even touch these guys with my collection of Vadas compared to them and how much they love them. And that just is great to know that there's other people out there that appreciate this guy, because I think he was just a wonderful player.
Yeah.
So Rob, start off with, tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell me, where you're at, kids, wife, kind of what you do.
Yeah. Grew up in Ohio, probably about 40 minutes east of Cincinnati. Moved to Kentucky, northern Kentucky, about 13 years ago. Met a Kentucky girl, and she pretty much forced me to cross the river. And I haven't regretted it. I love it. I work over here, and we have two beautiful blessings. Have a soon-to-be 12-year-old son, and his name's Cash. That's where you get my channel name, Cash Cards. And have a 3-year-old, soon-to-be 4-year-old daughter. She was a pleasant surprise blessing, a few years ago. So
you better get some track shoes.
Oh my gosh, man!
Because little girls will run; they never stop.
Yeah, the boy is so calm and sweet. And I thought, man, I'm getting daddy's little girl. She's going to be a little calm and sweet little girl. No, she's wild. I did not realize little girls were that wild and mean sometimes, but I love her. She is daddy's little girl. So just started this YouTube thing. I think I'll be 2 years on it at the end of April.
Okay.
My 2-year anniversary. And collected as a kid, started back in 86. I started being a baseball fan in 85 after I saw Pete Rose break Ty Cobb's record. And I was like, what's this baseball game? And kind of just fell in love with it and started collecting. And I kind of wish I would have gotten some 86 Fleer basketball.
Yeah.
But I bought 86 Topps baseball, which I love the set, but I probably would have been doing a little better financially if I would have invested in the Fleer basketball.
Yeah, that's a sore subject with me. I happen to have 50 of Michael Jordan rookies, stacks of them, and sold them all for $10 at the time because that's what they were all going for. No one knew. Yeah. No one had any inkling because people were already throwing it away.
Yeah, nobody knew.
No,
but it took a little bit of a, I wouldn't say, I guess, hiatus from collecting around 90, 99, 98, 99, somewhere around there. I graduated in 97 and then I picked it back up 2018, I believe. I saw a blaster box at Walmart and was like, baseball cards, and grabbed it. And then it ended up, I got it in the garage. I got my old collection out. And then it's been crazy ever since. I never spent more. I think the most expensive card I bought, I did buy a Pete Rose, 1964 Pete Rose when I was a kid. I was, I think, 16 years old, and I think I paid $80 or $90 for that. I saved up money. That was the most expensive card I ever had, and now I'm going to Strongsville and buying bigger cards, and I never thought I would be where I'm at right now, but got into that, and then YouTube, and I'm making a ton of friends, guys like you. Just talked to Jayhawker last night. We were on the phone. You just lose track of time, man, talking to these guys, talking baseball, and it's just it's been so much fun. So that's where I'm at.
There you go. All right, Jade, you got to tell me. I know a little bit about you, but you haven't been on here to tell me a little bit about yourself. Just give me a little overview.
Yeah, so I'm Mike, Jayhawker Vintage Cards, and I have not been on YouTube quite a year yet. My first video was March 26th, so right before Strongsville. So that made it interesting introduction to. I've been watching for years, behind the scenes, but I didn't even make comments or anything like that until I actually started up a channel. But I've been collecting since 1982. It was kind of an interesting deal how I got collected or got into collecting. I had a couple of packs that my parents bought me in '74, and then some more for like stocking stuffers in the '80s. But I didn't really collect cards. I had a lot of Star Wars cards, the original Star Wars cards from the first movie, which I found in a big metal cookie tin, which was really cool to see that because they hadn't been touched for 40 some years, more than 40 years. But I started collecting, and my friends got me into it, and my passion for cards blew past them so fast. I mean, it was like a whirlwind, and I never really stopped. As they got into doing other stuff, as they got older, I kept collecting cards. I started selling at shows when I was a teenager in my hometown of Lawrence, Kansas, home of the Kansas Jayhawks, by the way. And I kind of got out when I got married in the mid 1990s. I kind of backed away a little bit. You started having kids and things like that, but I never completely got out. I wasn't the passionate collector that I've always been. And then around COVID, I kind of crept back into it. Like a lot of guys, that's not a very uncommon story. But the last few years, as I found and discovered YouTube and the community, it completely has changed my life in a positive way. And like Rob said, you make friends. And what's great about this community and this technology is, could you imagine when we were kids growing up, talking to people from across the country about cards and bonding and developing friendships? And it's pretty unique. And I don't take that for granted, especially because I live in the middle of nowhere. I mean, there's just not a lot of content creators around here, but I'm starting to find a few, and just other people who don't, I think sometimes we don't realize how many people actually watch these videos. And we're not just talking about the people who comment, but there's tens of thousands of people potentially that watch these videos, don't ever make a comment at all. But you go to a show and they recognize you, which the first time that kind of freaked me out. But now it's not unusual for me to walk around a little show in Kansas City and people recognize me from YouTube. And so it's fun. I'm enjoying this. I'm having a blast. And I appreciate this opportunity to talk about a guy that I started really believing in as a Hall of Fame candidate back in the 1980s when I was still a teenager. So this is kind of a passionate project for me that I've wanted to get him in the Hall of Fame for decades now, literally decades.
Yeah, no, look, I thought I was his oldest fan, and I'm not even close. I think find out there's a lot more people out there that appreciate his talent, what he did. I mean, can you imagine that high school team, with him and Flood, and even your boy Ernie Lombardi went to that same school, McClyde-Moore's, down in Oakland. And I'm from Sacramento, so that school was really well known. But it doesn't have that many people that went to the majors, but the ones that did, oh my God.
Frank Robinson.
Yep, Frank Robinson. Kurt Flood and Vada all were there at the same time. I think there was 1 or 2 years between a couple of them, but they were all there at the same time.
So Pinson actually didn't play with Flood because he was a few years younger.
Yeah.
So they didn't actually, but they knew each other. They just, like I said, Frank was a little bit older, but all those guys knew each other as well. And then Bill Russell, I believe, went to that high school as well. I mean, wow. Something in the water in that area.
At the same time those guys are going there was a fourth outfielder who had a short career, but I think would have been a superstar if he'd have been discovered, was Willie Tasby. He went to the same school around the same time those guys did. So it wouldn't have, if you went back and looked, you might see that Tasby was one of the outfielders.
Yeah. Jesse Gonder also played there, and he had a major league career, nothing special, but he had another guy. It's just amazing that much talent came out of one little high school.
Gonder always, every time I hear his name, I just think he's the poor guy in the 65 set that didn't get the trophy cup. He was the pick, but they say on there, they forgot to put the trophy cup on him.
Oh, wow.
So that's why a lot of people just collect his 65 card if they're putting that subset together. So before we get started, I mean, I think this is the thing that I wanted to reiterate with you guys is what's so cool is when I had like Orlando on a couple of days ago, and we could just talk about all kinds of stuff. It's like you have now this group of people that when somebody like Orlando's going through something, he's now got this army behind him because all these people, care about him and think about him and worry about him and wonder if there's any way they can help or what can they do. And I think for men especially, it's great to have this community where we can all just at any time chat and talk about the things we love and have relationships all over the country where that town I live in. There's just it's a small little town out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
So I think this is great, and I appreciate you guys doing this. And this community has just blown me away. Like I 10 times better than I thought.
It is, and I tell you what, man, I would love if you would come to Strongsville sometime, man.
Well, you know, look at you don't have to twist my arm too much. I wouldn't mind coming out to the East Coast.
It's a trip. I know it's a trip, but
Yeah.
it's a different experience, and it brings you even closer than doing shows like this. It's
Right.
crazy how it works. And Mike's going to experience for the first time this year.
Yeah.
It's going to be a drive, but yeah, I am beyond pumped to go to this. I mean, from watching the videos last year, I was really excited to go and for the first time. It's going to be an amazing experience. I don't even know how to think about it. I just know it's going to exceed anything I could even think of. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah, the only thing I'm worried about, Adam, is me and him might be fighting over a Vada card at the show.
It could be. It could be, but Rob, I just just use that hip check, man. I'm telling you, it works every time.
Yeah,
works every time. So we're going to start with you, Rob, since you're over in the corner here, and save your trifecta, the thing that I want to see up close, till last. Just start off by showing some cards, and then we'll move on to Mike at Jayhawker. Call you Jay, Mike.
So I can show, well, because we're probably going to have a lot of the same cards, so I can. And what's funny about Vada is when I got back into it, I was into modern cards when I got back into it in 2018. But I did buy Ted Klaczewski and some Vada Pinson cards. Those were like the two vintage guys I was buying. But I don't have those cards, but I have upgraded a little bit. There's his rookie card.
Is that a 5?
It is. Yes, it is a 5.
Nice.
I was just looking for one that didn't have snowing, that had pretty decent centering on it. Some of my favorites. I love his stand-up.
Yep, I got that. That's a beautiful.
Oh man, these cards are. I don't think the camera does them justice.
No.
When you get them in hand, they're way better.
Yep.
Love his 60. I always thought he had maybe the second best smile next to Ernie Banks.
Yep.
He's got some good cards where he's got a big bright smile. And one of the things I've had fun picking up is Venezuelan cards.
That's a 4? How'd you get a 4, Rob? That's beautiful. Most time they're 1s or 2s.
Yeah. It probably graded by SGC or PSA, maybe 3.5, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, the corners are pretty rounded on it, but
that's okay, man. That's Venezuelan.
They're fun. they're so much fun to pick up. Here's one of my latest ones. I haven't shown this on the channel yet.
Is that the Canadian?
Yeah, the Canadian.
Yep. 62?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. They're beautiful.
I've never gotten huge into post. Why is there a 62 Canadian but not a 61 or 63?
That I couldn't tell you.
No.
I mean, and then there's the 1 year of Jello, I think, or maybe there's 2 years of them.
No.
Yeah.
But it was weird how there was only 1 year of the Canadian. I kept thinking that he had one of each, but it only was in 62.
Yeah, I don't know. I couldn't tell you. I just started kind of collecting. I'm still learning. I have only been into vintage probably the last 2 years. I mean, when I started doing videos, I got more into vintage cards. I like these little team issues.
Yes.
This is like a J Publishing. This was a gift from my buddy Picker Jim. I don't know if you're familiar with his channel, Adam.
Yeah, I am. I just started following him.
Great guy. Knows cards like nobody else. But that was a gift from him. And then Mike might get mad if I show this card. Another team issue. What year is that? 67.
Signed. Oh my gosh, that's beautiful.
It's not signed. That's not a real signature.
Oh, that's not real. Okay.
No. I wish it was. But
So what Rob did not tell you about that is that he outbid me for it, which was okay. But he'll show you another one coming up that's tops that one. So
yeah. But probably my most, I don't know, Venezuelan cards are awesome, but I love Cons cards.
Yeah, that's one I don't have.
Oh my
I
god.
missed out on one that was pretty cheap. The guy was selling it really cheap, and I missed out on it. But
Yeah,
those are
Vada's not too.
beautiful.
Yeah, Vada's not too bad. There's certain issues that are for certain years that are a little more expensive. There's some variations to these as well. There's that one. Love these, but this is my favorite design right here, and I hate the way that let me take it out of this plastic. I hate the way PSA. I'm gonna send this back in and get it reslabbed, but I love that design.
How come they couldn't put that more in the middle?
There's nothing holding it up. Now they got little brackets or something they put in there that
Oh,
kind of
jeez.
kind of hold it up, but that's one of my
Ah,
higher. That's a 9. That's
Ooh.
rated pretty high.
wow.
But my favorite cons card of him is from the year before, and that's his. Yeah, this one right here. I just love that pose on that card.
I just can't get over the cons. They're
But
my
yeah,
favorites.
there's some that have variations. Like there's like green stripes that go up,
Oh,
and yeah, and some years have two. They'll have a different image on them, but that's about it. I don't know if Mike wants to show some
yep.
stuff.
Your turn, Mike.
I will show some. One thing that you'll notice, I've collected Pinson literally since the mid '80s. So I've only started sending cards off from my own collection last spring, and I did it for a very short period of time. So you're going to notice almost all of my Pinsons are not graded. They're nice condition. I just haven't sent those off for grading. But I do have some rookies of his.
Nice.
But the cool thing about this that I got last year was the photo that the rookie card was based off of.
That's all.
So I absolutely, I mean, it's kind of hard to see it with the glare, but I
Oh
absolutely,
no, you can see it.
yeah. And this, it has on the back here, this picture may not be rented or used for advertising purposes, the Cincinnati Baseball Club Company. So technically I'm not advertising, but I really don't care.
Yeah.
But I have all of his normal top runs. I do have some cons. I think did you show this one?
No, I didn't show that one.
Okay, this is the 60, I believe. Yeah, so this is the 60s con. Again, I have one of these, but not graded, that Rob showed. And I'm forgetting what year this was. I got this in St. Louis at the Westport show with Joe, Redneck Collector, and those guys. This is, I think, a 64. Some of the cooler stuff that I have, I've got a 62 autograph. It's kind of faint, but you can see that. I just got that up not too long ago.
Nice.
Real nice.
And then I never was into Venezuelan cards. I just haven't ever got into them, but I decided I'd go ahead and snag a Pinson. So I did get one. So here's a 64, and this is a 2. And I love the backs on the Venezuelan for this year because it's the dark rather than the puke orange. Love those. I got the 60. This one's a 2. Another Venezuelan.
Wow.
And then this guy on your screen outbid me on 66, which I gave him a hard time about. But I did snag a PSA 3.5 Venezuelan of Pinson.
Beautiful.
Now, I don't know if I want to show this one now, but I will. My buddy Rob's becoming a great friend, and we lose track of time. I think last night I said, hey, I don't want to keep you. We probably should get off. And I think we talked another hour and a half after that.
Yeah.
That's just what we end up doing. We just love talking sports and cards and life. But so Rob showed me this item. He'll talk about, we'll wait and let you show that because it's special and you got some other stuff with it. But I got a lot of quirky stuff for Pinson too. Again, I've got all of his run of cards. One of my favorite cards of his is, my favorite player growing up was Nolan Ryan. And here's I think this is actually a 76 SSPC of Pinson.
I just picked that up.
It's got Nolan Ryan in the background.
Yeah.
And then I've got some other stuff here. Let me see. I had to get one with my Royals. He did play for the Royals at the end of his career.
Yep.
And then this is, I don't know the exact year, but this is a 1960 Sports Service. And I think Jay Publishing might use the same photo. A lot of those team
Right.
issues, the same things back in there. But I do have some random stuff. I got a 6 for the stand-up.
There you go.
I got an old baseball digest with Vada, which is really interesting to read the articles in that one. I have an advertising piece for Adirondack bat. That's a Vada Pinson bat. I can't remember how old this was, but it's old. I have to look at it a little bit more. Then I got some action photos. Here's one of him sliding with Johnny Romano as the catcher.
Yep, of the Indians.
Yep, with a cool shot there. And then again with my Royals, him making a sliding catch.
Nice.
For my Royals. And then the minor league team, this is a team photo of the Seattle Rainiers. And Pinson is, where's he at? He's right back here. I don't know if you can see that or not. I'll shoot it up here a little bit. And Claude Osteen.
What was distinct about his year in up there in Seattle?
Oh, he had a monster year. He had like 20 triples, 20 home runs,
40 doubles,
20
triples, 20 home runs, 52 steals, and batted like 350.
Yeah, monster
in 600
season.
bats. He just blew the. I mean, there was no way he was going to stay very long.
Well, here's
that's one of the best seasons I've ever seen.
Yeah,
minor league, PCL, whatever. That was just an unreal.
Just a monster season. Here's an old sport magazine of him. And then one of my most special things, which is ironic, that Kenny Lofton, who I also think is a Hall of Fame worthy player, is on this issue of Baseball Digest from 1995. But there's a letter to the editor written by yours truly promoting him for the Hall of Fame. I really got into Pinson from it was actually this card here, the 66 regular one. It was in what my local card shop would put together these things called bargain boxes, and he'd have like commons in just a shoe box, and then he'd have like the stars and Hall of Famers wrapped around with a rubber band. And this was in there, and I flipped it over on the back. I'm like, that's 1, 2, 3, 4 years, 200 hits in the 60s. That's amazing, and that really started getting the ball rolling. And just for the guys who may not be aware, baseball was different in the 60s. And Pinson, unfortunately, had the worst timing of just about anybody you can think of. He came up and had a cup of coffee in 1958. He had like 6 at-bats too many. So he was not eligible for the Rookie of the Year the next year. He would have won. Willie McCovey had a good half season, but Pinson had what would have been one of the best true rookie seasons of all time if it would have counted.
Yep.
But I actually was thinking about writing a book. I did a ton of research back in the late 1990s and early 2000s. So I compiled a whole bunch of research and I sent all of it that I had off to the Hall of Fame, believe it or not. I don't know what they ever did with it, but I want to read off something. I read this to Rob before. So this is Vada Pinson versus all contemporary players, American League and National League, from 1959 to 1967. That was his best 9 years consecutive. So you're thinking of all the guys who played at that time. So games played from 1959 to 1967, Pinson had the most games played, the most hits, the most doubles, the most triples. He had the 8th best batting average, the 12th most RBI, the 4th most runs, the 5th most runs plus RBI. Now, he wasn't known as a home run hitter, but he still was 21st in home runs during that period, 4th in stolen bases, 4th in extra base hits, 4th in total bases. I wanted to touch briefly about his power and speed, because you hear a lot of people talk about, Maury Wills and guys like that just exploding the stolen base totals in the early 60s. That's true, but the big change was not the guys like the Maury Wills and the Aparicios. The biggest change was the guys who had power started stealing bases. Now, Willie Mays was thought of as a freak. He was the only one really who hit a lot of home runs and stole a lot of bases. Nobody else really did it. Mantle had the speed. He just never did it, even when he was a little bit younger and healthier. Pinson came on in 1959. And if you read the articles, you know, and like the Baseball Digest and some of the other magazines I have, he was thought of as to be like, they called him Mickey Mantle without the strikeouts, the next Ty Cobb. I mean, they just blew him up to such big proportions. Of course, he never reached that. And he always failed to live up to that in the minds of fans and writers. But when he came up and hit, you know, 20 home runs and had 20 stolen bases, you know who else started doing that? And I have articles that talk about them saying, wow, Vada can do this. Maybe I can do it. His teammate, Frank Robinson, Hank Aaron, those guys had never been stolen base guys. This list of the most stolen bases between 1959 and 1967, Vada Pinson was 4th, Hank Aaron was 6th, and Frank Robinson was 8th. Those aren't the little leadoff guys. Those are power guys that utilize their speed that had not ever been done in baseball history. And it's kind of stayed that way. Guys that had power and speed from that moment on, they did both. You know, that led the way for guys like, you know, Bob Bonds, Amos Otis, and other players from the 60s. Even George Brett had power, and Mike Schmidt had some power and speed. So it's just kind of weird that you think of guys that have all that speed being little leadoff hitter type guys, but that's not necessarily the case. Unfortunately for Vada, that caused a huge controversy with a local sports writer. So there's a guy named Earl Lawson who was the sports writer for Cincinnati at the time. Now, Earl Lawson was a new breed of sports writer. He didn't just sit back and watch the game. He would burst into the clubhouse after the game, get the manager's face, get the player's face, saying, you should do this. You should have done that. Why did you do this? He got into a fight with Johnny Temple in the 50s for being brash and obnoxious. Well, he thought Vada should bunt more, and maybe he should have, but he thought he should bunt more. Well, Vada Pinson, for the long part of his career with the Reds, hit 3. Behind him was Frank Robinson. Now, those were the guys who were the RBI guys for the Reds for the longest time. This is pre-big Red Machine, but he kept going in and just egging on Pinson. Why you need to bunt more? What are you doing? Well, the players are like, hey, man, are you going to let him talk to you that way? So one thing, if you don't know about Vada, he was very soft-spoken, very mild, very classy. He was known as the best-dressed player in Major League Baseball. He shined his shoes. If you read like contemporary guys who played with him, they will always point out how classy he was, how he was always the best-dressed, meticulously dressed, just a classy guy. Well, Vada had enough, and he decked Earl Lawson. Lawson ran into the manager's office, called the police on him. Pinson got arrested. He got off. He wasn't found guilty for that. But Lawson held a grudge for the rest of his life. Now, he'll claim that he voted for him for the Hall of Fame. And he probably did. He may have. I don't know that. But every time that, if you read a Baseball Digest article, those guys would ask Earl Lawson about Pinson, and he would dog him every time. He would say, well, I don't know if he belongs in the Hall of Fame. He only hit 286 for his career. He played in the era of dominated by pitching stats from the 60s into the early 70s. And he still had a great average, but he was always dogging him. And I think that when it came to Hall of Fame voting, which he never did well, I think that sometimes those writers are a bit cliquish. And Earl Lawson by this time was like a senior member of the Baseball Writers Association, and he had clout. And I think that always hurt him in terms of respect. Bill Mazeroski, rest in peace. I found this in my research. So when he got elected to the Hall of Fame, they asked him, they go, defense needs to be recognized. Now, I also want to say about WAR. Pinson has a negative defensive rating in WAR. There's a lot of guys who are known as great defensive players that have negative ratings in WAR. I don't know how they do their metrics. I don't know if the guys who play along like Pinson did, if their career just tanks off defensively, it shoots them way down. But other metrics, other people like Bill James gave him an A- rating. His contemporaries thought he was great. His teammates thought he was great. But Bill Mazeroski said this after he got elected basically for being a defensive player. When asked which of his contemporaries deserve consideration based on defense, Mazeroski named Chicago Cubs third baseman Ron Santo and outfielder Vada Pinson, who played the bulk of his career with the Reds. So even guys like Bill Mazeroski recognize this. Now I know Rob's got some cool cards, but I want to show this. So I'm
going to go next and show a couple things because I got a couple odd things.
Show a couple things. I want to get to this stuff. This is pretty good here in a second.
Well, you guys have probably collected these. This is actually the only thing I have. This is PSA on it. Is this one thing? But collecting all his pennants, pins and coins. I put them in these. These are stamps, and I put them in these coin holders. They work pretty good for at least displaying them.
Oh yeah.
And this is 71. And then his 74 stamp. I think it's his last stamp that he had with the Angels. I pick up the oddball stuff when I find it. I don't go looking for it, but pick it up. Like this guy, I think is you might know Rob more than this. I think his name is Bill Barber.
Oh yeah.
Is that who this is? Bill Barber?
I can't remember. I've seen those. I don't know much about them.
They're just they're little illustrations that he does with pencil, and he's really good at it. I read about him as a artist, and then this one just tells all of his stuff he did with Cincinnati. That's it.
Yes,
like say where he is all time among Cincinnati players in all these categories. But it's just really good artwork, and it fits in a card saver 4. So I would think this a little bit bigger than a super, just width wise. But it's really
Bob Parker.
Yeah, is that who it is? Bob Parker?
Bob Parker, yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. But I just thought I'd show a couple oddities like that because I've got a lot of the same cards. Well, I've got his complete run graded, and I'm getting a second run graded by a different company.
So, nice.
So I can have all the same.
Adam, what drew you to Pinson? I mean, you got him in your channel name and everything. I don't know if I've heard you.
When I grew up, so I'm 64, so I was born in 61. And when I was in my first baseball craziness, I was 8, 9, and 10. I would read the paper and everything. And at that time, I lived in Sacramento, California. We didn't really have a team. Closest was Frisco and everything. Well, I grew up, my dad was a Dodger fan, so I became a Dodger fan. But for some reason in 1970, when they were horrible, the Indians actually were 62 and 100. I picked the Indians as my other favorite team, the team I wanted to watch. And the player was Vada Pinson.
Nice.
And that was his first year that he'd gone to the Indians. And I just became a fan. And then I thought it was, when I got involved in SABR, I'm a member of Society for Baseball Research. And when I got involved in it, everything, and I realized, why isn't he in the Hall of Fame? It made me even go back and do more. And I felt the same way about Curt Flood. I've gotten a chance to meet some people that know him and talk to him. And a buddy of mine's gotten a chance to spend some time with his wife and just how he should be in based off of his contributions to baseball. So It was two guys that hit me in a different way. But Pinson, because he's with the Indians, and then I just followed him from that point on.
Right.
Well, that's so cool.
It is. It is. I'm glad you're a fan, man.
Yeah, no, I got posters and I got all the stuff that Mike's been showing all up on my wall here. So I've got all the different photos and I've got, all his publications I have, even this one, the Sporting News.
Yeah,
I got it framed.
What's that stain on his uniform? Oh, that's a Cardinal. My bad. That's a Cardinal logo. Bad.
I have figured you'd have something to say about that, but
no, I will give a shout out to your buddy, John.
Yeah, Nerdy.
Yeah, he gave me this. He gifted me this.
Oh, nice.
It's the O-Pee-Chee version. I think he said something like he was just saving me the pain of buying a Cardinal card by sending that to me. So I had to give him a shout out before I forgot.
No, so you got show some other ones, Rob, and then tell that story that's going to connect you with.
Here's this, and this is the Atlantic Oil, right? I forget what's the year on that one.
68.
68.
1968.
Yeah, and they have different backs. This is like the ad back. Just picked this up at an antique mall.
Yeah, I was watching a show when you did that. You were asking. There's actually a whole. I think there's like 40 in the set.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't know what they stuck those to.
Put them on each other's arms.
Yeah. Here's a cool
Oh,
bat relic.
I, yep.
You can get this cheap. I think there's a couple on eBay right now, but
Yep.
it's cool to have a little modern card of Veda.
Yeah. One of my
Sports
best, the sportscasters.
Yeah, these are. I've really gotten to appreciate these more.
They
The
did it
last
from
few months.
77 to 79, and man, it's just some beautiful stuff.
Yeah, these printed in Italy, and I don't know. I just think they're pretty cool. They have great images, and there's a ton of info on the players
Yes.
on the
yeah.
back.
Unfortunately, his is bad.
But anywho, I can get into my little project that I kind of stumbled into it a little bit.
Well, tell me about it and show me, because that's the thing that I found from watching your channel. I thought that such a cool thing, because you have something no one's going to be able to do.
Yeah, it was. And the thing was, I wasn't like a huge fan of his 1966 card until I got one. And I've really grown to love the 1966 set. And what I've tried to do, I bought a lot of raw Vada Pinson cards when I first got back into the hobby. And then I've I've even learned more about him over the last couple years. I knew a lot about him before, but I've just learned even more about him and appreciated his cards. So I'm trying to do a graded run, and I'm trying to get nice examples of each card. I don't really care about the grade. I've looked at some 4s that I think look spectacular. So I'm just trying to. It all started me going and looking for a 66 Vada Pinson, and they're kind of tough to find a decently centered one. But while I was looking for that card, I ran into this card, and it was listed as just the regular tops, and I think this was like $4 or $5. And I thought it looked a little different, and then I looked at the back of the card, and it's the O-Pee-Chee.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, has the old printed in Canada on there. So I think this was my first 66 Pinson, was this card here, and I was not looking for the O-Pee-Chee. And I still didn't have his regular tops. I go to a place called the Sports Gallery in Cincinnati, and they have some awesome, awesome stuff. I need to go back there. And then I ran into this.
That's beautiful.
A signature. It's not. Well, they gave me some kind of certificate for it, but I'm pretty confident that's his signature. So that was my second one that I got, and I'm like, well, I still need to get a graded, regular 66 tops. And then one night on eBay, I didn't know, but I'm battling Jayhawker on a certain card that I won. And I picked up his Venezuelan from 1966.
So you were bidding on that card too, Mike?
Yeah, we didn't know it. I didn't know he got it until he showed it.
Yeah. So I got the Vinny. So I got the O-Pee-Chee, an autograph version, and a Venezuelan. And I still hadn't got his regular tops yet. And I was at a card show and ran into this one. And I just thought this was just a gorgeous. I love the color.
And that's beautiful.
The centering, it's just fantastic. So I got that, and I'm like, you know what? I think I even said it on the video. I got the rainbow. You know how they do those rainbows,
right?
Modern cards. You get the gold and the reds and the blues and all that stuff. And I'm like, well, I think I got a vintage rainbow. And I was telling people about it, and they're like, yeah, that's kind of cool. And just on eBay, I wasn't even looking. I was done with 66. I was done. I'm like, that's it. That's my last 1966 card. And I'm looking up Vada. And I think what I did, I was seeing the same Vadas about every day. I'm like, let me just put rare in the title. And that's what I searched. Or no, I don't even know if I did that. I think I just went to the most expensive. You know, you can search on eBay like the highest price. I never do that. I usually look at the lowest price first. But I was getting bored. I'm like, well, maybe there's something I can talk somebody out of, maybe there's something I can find. And I saw this card, and it said it was a proof. And I started reading about it, and it said it was out of that. I guess Topps had an auction back in 1989 where they opened up their vault and I know Mike's done a little more research than I have on it, and he'll talk about that more. But I saw this card, and I'm like, oh my gosh. So I saved it, and I'm like, do I want to buy this? Because it's a little pricey for me. And I looked at it. The guy sent me an offer, and I was able to pick up this 66 Veda, which is beautiful. Got the best color of any of them. But the cool thing about it is it's a blank back.
I didn't even know there was something like that existed.
Yeah, and it's got proof on here, and it came out of whose collection was that, Mike?
So Alan Hager, which a lot of guys will
Yeah.
know in the vintage community, he did that Hager's comprehensive baseball card price guide or book or something. Orlando has showed it several times, and Rob actually, I don't know if did you already have that when you called and talked to me about that?
Yeah, this
Okay.
came with, I don't have it with me, but it came with paperwork
Right.
from the auction and
Mhm.
a letter. They didn't have, I don't know if did they have email in '89? I don't know. I don't think so.
No, I think they were letters. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a letter from the auction house. This was Guernsey's auction.
Mhm.
It was a letter to Hager about returning some stuff, that he bought a bunch of stuff, and they sent his letters of authenticity to him, something like that. And they want him to return. I can't remember what they wanted him to return. It was something. Weird.
They wanted some sleeves.
Yeah, sleeves.
Yeah.
They want him to return sleeves. That they talked to his wife. We know you got the letters of authenticity.
Seems a little petty to me.
Yeah, it was kind of odd, but it was cool that it came with the actual paperwork from that.
So when Rob was talking to me about that, I was getting excited. I'd never heard of this. And so I was telling him about Alan Hager, and I was doing some research, and I talked about this actually on my last video. But Alan Hager actually started the first grading company back in '84. It's like AccuCard, or he had a couple of different names. And so a lot of the cards that he got from this auction in '89, he just slabbed into his own slabs.
Okay.
And I found ironic was PSA had to pay him to use the number grading system for a number of years until sometime in the 90s, his proprietary license for that expired. So they were able to do that. I didn't know any of this. I'd never heard of that grading company, but talking to Rob got my juices flowing. So I'm like, well, if Rob can do it, maybe I can too. So I typed in Vada Pinson proof, and lo and behold, on eBay, eventually I found one. Not that one. I can't tell from my research. That might be the only one. I don't know how many of these they made. They might have made different ones for different colors, kind of like the plates and stuff. That would be my guess.
Well, Mike, I had somebody comment on my video that knew about that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They said that there probably is some uncut sheets that came out of that, or that came out of the Topps vault at some time.
Right.
But they said that these that came out are the finished proofs.
Okay.
Whatever that means. But they said they're called finished proofs. So there could be a blank back if somebody would cut an uncut sheet.
Yes.
Right.
But I don't know.
Like I said, I found one, and this one actually is in Alan Hager's own slab. So here's the 64 Topps Pinson proof. So that's an Alan Hager's own slab. And there's the back, just like Rob's. It's just the standard card back, and you can see it's AccuCard Incorporated.
Interesting. So
I'm pretty excited to have this. Again, I don't know how many. I've never even heard of these before until Rob. And which is great about this community. I never even heard of that. But talking to somebody like Rob, we started talking about it, and you learn so much. I mean, I'm picking up, you showed some coins. I have those coins too. And then I have these disgustingly ugly little coin things of Pinson.
Yeah, the Saldanas.
But you just had it to get those. And so, yeah, it's really cool how you keep learning about all this stuff that you didn't even know existed, of these guys that I've collected for years, just the normal Topps cards and some other stuff affiliated with that. I mean, one of his most beautiful things that I have of his is that I would love to get this autographed
Yeah, the 64 Giant.
He's passed away, but I would love. I've seen blue Sharpie autographs of this card.
Yes.
And they're expensive, but I would love to have one. I would love to have that exact card.
Well, the thing about it is, you know, Rob, when you got that blank back and you start talking about it, you do what I think any smart baseball fan would do is I got to research this. I bought this damn thing. Yeah. I'm trusting what it is, but I got to figure out about it. Right. And because you did a little video about it, people like me and Mike, and we found out about something we didn't even know existed. Yeah. Like I'd never heard about that. So that's where this community is even more is the knowledge you'll get on other shows and or what the knowledge that they get even from us of something that we find and do the research on. It really, you can't not learn about something if you want to learn about it. There's somebody out there that's gone down this path.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I love hearing stories like when people talk to me and tell me, you know, hey, I didn't know about this set. You know, they didn't go out and get a Vada Pinson that I got, but they found a similar card of their favorite player. And for them to pick that up, I mean, it just gave them that idea. And I don't mind spending other people's money.
Right.
It's kind of fun. I do that with my buddy Dave at card shows. I'm always like, hey, look at this Barry Larkin. And he's like, he's a big Barry Larkin collector. And he's like, oh, I got to buy it now. I'm like, it's fun spending other people's money. But it's very rewarding when you can kind of help somebody get a card or I don't know. It's a great feeling.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what we're all about here. You know, we're not trying the shows that I consider in the community are those type of shows that are just talking about cards and staying away from all the political stuff. You know, there's channels that are for that. God bless them. I can't watch that stuff. You know, I just want to watch happy, joy. You know, I just want to watch guys show cards and talk about collections and just talk baseball or hockey or whatever.
That's our core is shows like that. I mean, that to us, and I think a lot of our subscribers, they really appreciate just people showing cards, enjoying their collection, and watching people, you know, have a good time and sharing their stuff. So,
absolutely.
Go ahead, Mike.
Oh, I was just going to say it. Yeah. You know, talking about his Hall of Fame candidacy, you know, things have changed differently with analytics. And of course, with all the steroid users in the game, a lot of stats and stuff are different. But I actually have a 1976 baseball encyclopedia. I used to check that out at the library. The reason I like that is because Vada Pinson retired in 1975. So that edition of the baseball encyclopedia captures where Pinson ranked all time in Major League Baseball.
Right.
At the time of his retirement. Well, at a library book sale, like 15 years ago, they actually sold that and a whole bunch of other books. Man, you can buy books like for 25 cents, hardcover books, $1. So I actually bought that. But I mean, I had stuff written in that next to Vada Pinson that I'd written in over the years, like Vada Pinson, best player not in the Hall of Fame type of thing when I was a kid, my little kid's handwriting. But I just briefly wanted to do this. This just shows how good he ranked at the time of his retirement all time. So when he retired in 1975, there's a total of 80 non-pitchers that were already elected to the Hall of Fame, 80. He ranked 20th all time in games played. Everybody in front of him is in the Hall of Fame. He ranked all time 13th in at-bats. Everybody in front of him is in the Hall of Fame. He ranked 28th in hits when he retired in 1975. Every player who was ahead of him is in the Hall of Fame. He ranked, let me go to this next page here. He ranked 27th in extra base hits. Everybody ahead of him is in the Hall of Fame. Now remember, there's 80 guys in the Hall of Fame already. So think how many of those guys were ranked behind him. Not just the guys in front, all of them are in the Hall of Fame. Think how many Hall of Famers were ranked behind him in all these categories. Doubles, let me see if I can find the doubles here. I have that on another one because that's a pretty good one. Here we go. Doubles, he ranked 28th all time in doubles. Everybody but one player, Mickey Vernon, is in the Hall of Fame. Runs
and you
scored.
can make a case for Mickey Vernon.
Yeah, absolutely.
You could make a case.
Total bases. He ranked 25th every player ranked above him is in the Hall of Fame. Just category after category. And then one that triples is kind of a funny one because guys in the olden days, for whatever reason, bigger ballparks maybe, or guys that weren't as athletic and couldn't run down balls or didn't have the arms, doubles kind of was a lost art by the time World War II came around. And I forgot what it has, but for triples, I don't know why I picked 1927, but I did for some reason. But for triples, for players whose playing career started from 1927 or later, he was 6th all-time in triples. It's just amazing. For guys who began their career after 1950, at the time he retired, he ranked 9th in stolen bases. So just category after category, people in front of him are all Hall of Famers, and a lot of the guys behind him are Hall of Famers. But for some reason, he was left out. Now, I say for some reason, look who he played. Look who his peers were. Just in the National League, you had Aaron, you had Willie Mays, you had his teammate Frank Robinson, you had Clemente. I mean, talk about Hall of Famers. I mean, those are like top tier Hall of Famers that he was directly competing with for All-Star games. He played in 4 All-Star games, but that's when they had 2 a year, and that's the only 2 years that he made it. He lost out with Curt Flood, a great defensive outfielder. Willie Mays just got it habitually. Roberto Clemente, so he didn't win a lot of Gold Gloves either, but he was Gold Glove worthy. In fact, one thing I was telling Rob about, back in the 50s, people thought Richie Ashburn was this amazing center fielder because he caught so many balls. Well, he played in a huge, huge stadium. The American League teams that played in that stadium in Philadelphia, their outfielders who would change up the different guys all the time, they were also high in putouts. Vada Pinson playing at Little Crosley Field led the league in putouts multiple times at the beginning of his career, and assists multiple times. He just was a 5-tool player when a lot of guys that are in the Hall of Fame were specialists. Maybe they were just good at one thing or maybe 2 things. He was good in 5 areas. Yep. And those guys are habitually underrated.
Yep. And, maybe that sports writer hurt him a little bit, but when you look at that, when he came up on the ballot, it's almost insane to think that he wasn't a first ballot Hall of Famer to some extent. I can understand maybe if they waited 2 or 3, but, they have to take into the era that people played in and also what their peers thought of them, and then look at the statistical things. We don't need writers today to vote for the Hall of Fame. They only did it back then because there was no television. We couldn't watch them. Right. Now everybody can watch every game of every player of everything. Why do we have the writers still involved? We need people who understand baseball a little bit better and don't hold grudges and look at guys and just get the guys in they're worthy to be in. And I'm not saying we take anybody out, but I just think you got to get in the guys that deserve it.
Yeah, and even after he retired, I mean, he still contributed to the game. I mean, he was a coach. I think is he the only coach, I think, for like 2 franchises, like their inaugural seasons. I think he was with Seattle.
Then he was with Florida
in the Marlins. Yeah. I don't know if he might be the only coach that has that distinction.
Could be. Sure. I mean, he was never the manager. Of course, he was just the coach, but he was in. I think it was like 14 years total. I think after his playing career, and from what I understood too, in '75, right? I'm pretty sure on this. The Giants claimed him, or the Giants could have signed him to a contract, because he said. There was something I just read recently where the Giants had gotten in touch with him and thought they had a deal with him to play in '76. Did you ever find anything like that, Mike?
I don't know. I know he actually was in the camp with Milwaukee.
Yeah, I heard that. Him and somebody else.
Yeah, there's another player, but they decided to go younger, which was probably the right thing. I mean, he was slipping. His legs were starting to go away, which was a big part of his game.
Well, the last couple of years, he'd spent a lot of time as a DH too.
Yeah, and he played for my Royals. Like, God, so many guys ended their career with the Royals. It's fascinating to me. I should do a show about that. It's amazing how many players ended their career with the Royals. Pinson was one. Killebrew, Gaylord Perry. I mean, just a ton of guys. George Brett, but that doesn't count. But just guys who bounced around and hung on and played with the Royals at the very end. It's fascinating to me. But you showed this, which is a cool card, and his son, who's a big proponent, has Facebook pages, Instagram pages. I actually found an email that I sent to him back in like 2001, because I had mentioned on on something that I was at one time considering writing a book. And I think he kind of got upset about it because nobody had asked him permission. I don't think he probably remembered because we're talking 2001. But I actually found my email correspondences with the Sun because at that time I was actually thinking about writing a book about Vada Pinson. But this shows, I don't know I did some research. I don't know who wrote these. This is a Switzerland company, I think, that had these sportscaster cards.
Yeah.
But this misrepresents him so bad. It really makes me angry. And I'll just read this little blurb. A sensitive, sometimes moody player, Pinson often differed with club officials over salary or publicity afforded other players. As a result, he moved around the major leagues quite a bit, despite the fact he was an outstanding batter and superior defensive outfielder. That is not Vada Pinson at all. Now,
No.
he did bounce around towards the end of his career, but you know who was a sensitive, sometimes moody player who often differed with his team and was really upset about the lack of publicity he thought he got? That was Roberto Clemente. So I don't know who they got this information from. I have a hunch it was a sports writer for Cincinnati that came up with that. But no, Pinson was known. If you read anything about his contemporaries, he and Frank Robinson brought on a young Pete Rose when the white players on the team didn't want anything to do with him because he was cocky. Rob and I were talking about that last night. Vada and the Reds management didn't like that at all. They weren't down with that at all. And it's just amazing the career that he had. His timing was always off just enough that it kind of kept him, I think. It could have been as simple as winning Rookie of the Year. It could have been as simple as maybe if he would beat Clemente out for the batting race in 1961, maybe that he would have won the MVP. And that would have pushed him over. Just little things that have kept him out. Now, I'm not saying he's the best candidate who's not in the Hall of Fame. For a while, I think he was. But he still belongs, in my opinion.
Yep. Well, the thing is too with with all that stuff is, I think another thing that hurt him was, that 61 team, because I'm gonna actually do a show on it one time at some point on that whole team and how they're put together, because it's pretty ironic how they all came together for that year. But that team actually was built for sustainability for at least 3 or 4 more years. All the pitchers were pretty young. Maloney, O'Toole, Joe Jay, they were all pretty young guys. And yet for some reason, they didn't get back to that position they were in 61, where that team, I thought if they'd have stayed around for 3 or 4 more years at that level, I think Pinson would have put him over the top, because his name would have been in everybody's head all the time.
Right.
When you're not fighting for a playoff position or to win that, you had to win the league. The media is not around as much, and it's going to follow the stories, and there wasn't a story if you're not in the race.
Yeah, that's what Mike and I were talking about. If he was a New York Yankee, how different would it have been?
Oh, that a Dodger, a Cardinal, unfortunately, just because of the size of the teams is what they were in the era. Those teams would have elevated his status at that point, because they each had 3 newspapers, and I think New York had 9 newspapers at the time. So if you were in New York would treat you good. Yeah. It's just the way it is. I mean, think about it. Ryan's the most expensive pitching card, basically. Mantle's the most highest priced regular card, and look where they're played at. It's not a coincidence. That kind of stuff, New York can make you from being a good player to a great player by if you can win there and withstand the media.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, guys, this has been awesome. I don't want to keep you on too much longer. Go around one more time and just show a couple quick cards, and we'll call it good.
Man, I probably showed all my good ones already.
Show a couple other ones.
Yeah, we got some. There you go.
Oh, there we go. That's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Got Pinson and him. Nice.
1960. It's a beautiful card right there.
The 61s, I always have loved the 61s.
Me too. That's about it. Unless you want to see, here's when I first got back into it. I'll show my last one. I'll show my first ever Vada Pinson rookie. I didn't care about condition. It's beat up a little bit, but I was so happy when back in 2018 when I bought it.
Nice.
Yeah. So I don't have as many as Mike has over there, but
I've
that one
got too many. I've got
that
too
one's
many to show.
that one's important. I would rather keep this one than the one that I have graded. If I had a choice, I would keep this one.
Well, I'll show a couple. This one, this really cool guy. You guys might know who he is. He sent this to me in the mail.
That's nice.
So thank you, Adam. That's really cool, and it's got your little
Yeah, you
slip
bet.
on it, which is
It's got
awesome.
it's got my flip.
Yeah, I have a Venezuelan of this. Love the centering on this one.
Yeah.
And
That's
again,
got the black back, right?
with the black back on it. So the Jello one, so I have all the post ones. I had the hardest time getting a clean copy of this. There was always just creases for some reason.
Well,
Finally
you
found
also
that one.
got to think a lot of young guys weren't buying Jello to get those cards. They were done by mama at home, and she might have just cut around it, thinking her kid might want it, but not cutting it real good. For some reason, those Jello ones, they're always hammered, just hammered.
Well, here's the last one I want to show. It's very special to me. It's a 101. Nobody has this. Nobody will ever have one like this. This is why I love this community. My buddy Ross loves cards, has a little son named Tate. And Tate knew I loved Vada Pinson. So Tate drew this for me and sent it to me, which is a picture.
That's awesome.
I mean, that if that doesn't scream the YouTube vintage community, I don't know what does.
No,
I mean,
that's a 101.
That is just beautiful. And
awesome.
I love having that in my collection. So Tate, if you're watching this, thank you, buddy.
Hey Tate, man, draw me up something, buddy. I need something now. I got to keep up with Jayhawker, so get a drawing for me.
These are just
Look at that.
some of the Pinsons I got laying around.
Yeah,
Love it.
But I did pick up. I was going to show you. I picked up two posts. So one's the Canadian, one's the regular post. For some reason, I didn't have those. I don't know why I didn't have this.
Oh yeah.
So there's guys on there that advertise this as an O-Peachy. And I've looked on the back and there's nothing that says, have I ever heard of this being an O-Peachy? I must have found 10 of them on eBay a couple of days ago. Guys calling these O-Peachys.
Why? I've never heard of that.
No, because Topps was the only one that put out any type of subset.
Yeah.
O-Peachy didn't do that. They just printed the cards.
Yeah.
And then I just picked this one up to 71 Dell stamps.
Oh, see, I don't have that one.
I love
These are pretty good size. The backs are pretty nice. I mean, they're much better than I thought. And then I got my two latest O-Peachys. So the 70 and the 74.
I have a lot of O-Peachys left to get. My favorite one is this one with Thurman Munson. That's a great action shot.
It is.
But the back of the O-Peachy is awesome. I love those.
The back of the O-Peachy are just the best of 71s.
Now, those posts that you were showing, they have the American one and they have the Canadian one, but they also have a difference in the 1961 post. They have the box cut ones like that, but they also have a perforated one, which I don't know if you guys have seen that. So they actually had two different versions. They had one that you could punch out.
Put the other one up.
And that's the cutout one, and that's the perforated one.
I think
interesting.
Mine's perforated.
Yeah. So they do have different ones, and of course they have the Canadian one. This is a 62 Canadian. I think you showed that, Rob.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then there's the 62 American version, I guess you'd call it.
Yep.
He didn't show
And what's great is he does it.
That's a good smile right there.
Yeah. He has great cards. I mean, just
Yep.
card after card is so good.
The hardest one to pick up is the 67 because of the high number. To get a decent copy, I've been trying to upgrade my copy. Like, what do I got up here? I think I have a 4, but I wanted to get a little bit better copy, and I can't ever find those 67s without having to pay an arm and a leg.
I have a couple, but I don't know what they would grade at, but I bet they'd probably be maybe. This one's really off center. Of course, these are ones I got when I was a kid. That one's off center quite a bit, but it's sharp. And this one's actually bettered centering, but I don't know. Like I said, I've never sent these off for grading. I might someday if they ever get the prices down.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Well, you won't send any in then.
Right. I'd rather
he's
just
got
buy
a-
it and not take my chance.
He's got
Yeah.
a 67 Venezuelan that is impossible to find.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Rob and I are going to be hunting the floor at Strongersville for that baby.
Yeah.
We'll
Well,
see.
guys, look at thank you for your time. And this was everything I hoped it would be. Got to see a lot of Pinson cards and talk about a guy who we all think the world of. So thank you for coming on. It's my honor.
Hey, thank you for having us, man. Appreciate
Absolutely. Thank you for
Always.
having us. Great to see other guys. I thought I was the only Pinson fan in the world, living out here in
Yeah.
the middle of nowhere. So it's really cool. It's been a highlight actually to learn that there's not just the three of us. There's quite a few other guys that are Pinson fans, which is great.
There's more of us.
it. There are.
All right, guys. Well, you take care. I'm going to let Rob get some sleep because he's the latest one up. We'll talk to all you guys later. Take care.
All right. Take care, everybody.